Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Sunday, July the 11th. We got the NBA Finals Game 3 on Sunday night. As always guys, we're going to break down this showdown slate, kind of go from top to bottom, talk about the entire player pool. We'll go team by team today. We've kind of been just going through the entire player pool, but we'll go team by team. We'll start off with the Suns side, kind of talk about all the Suns guys that I like, and then we'll switch over to Milwaukee and kind of break down Milwaukee as well. Do it like we were doing during the regular season, going team by team. But before we do get started with the breakdown, as always guys, I would appreciate it if you would click that like button down below. Also be sure to click that subscribe button as well, and hit the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload, and you also do get notified every time I live stream. Now, I don't know yet if I'm going to be streaming or not on Sunday. It is the weekend, and normally I don't stream on the weekends, but I'll probably go live Sunday just because, this is pretty much it. Like, these are our last few NBA slates that we're going to have. We don't really know how long this series is going to last. There's a good chance that, this series could be over after Tuesday or whenever they play, because the Suns could maybe sweep them. We don't know. This is definitely a big game for the Bucks. The Bucks are going to have to get a win here, but yeah, guys, there's a good chance I do go live Sunday, and if I do, I'll probably go live around 5:30 or 6 o'clock Eastern, like I've been doing. If you guys do want to come and hang out, I should be live breaking down the slate and kind of talking through everything once again, answering all your questions as always. But before we get started with the breakdown, do want to give a quick shout out to PrizePicks. PrizePicks, they are the sponsor of this video. We've partnered up with PrizePicks, been playing a lot on their site, just pretty much ever since I partnered with them, and even before we partnered, I was playing on PrizePicks, kind of checking everything out, and I've been able to have a lot of success. It's a fun new way to play DFS. It's a little bit different than Draftkings, than Yahoo. It's, you're not building a lineup, you're not playing against other players. It's pretty much you versus their projection. So for fantasy points, they have a fantasy point projection for each player, and you can pretty much pick whether you think they go over or under their fantasy projection. So they have almost every player listed. Pretty much every player they expect to play minutes, they have a projection for them. They also have single stat, which is pretty much like your player props. It's point projection, rebound, assist, 3-pointers made. You can also take the over or the under on those as well. You have to do at least 2 picks, but you can do up to 5, and you can select how many ever picks you want, pick the over or the under, and then they show you how they pay out. So they have their flex play, which is kind of the safer way to go. You don't win as much money, but as long as you usually get at least like 1 or 2 picks right, you'll get some money back. Or you can do the power play, which is what I like to do. I like to go a little bit, I like to chase the high payout. So you could do like a 3-pick power play. If you go 3 for 3, that would pay out 5x. You could do a 4-pick power play. If you go 4 for 4, pays out 10x. So as always, we'll kind of chat and talk about some of the picks I do like over on PrizePicks for today. But if you guys do want to check out PrizePicks, you want to see what they have to offer, be sure to use promo code NOAH when you do sign up. That will give you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. Plus, it will give you an entry into their $1 million promo. If you do look on the screen right now, PrizePicks is running a $1 million promo till the end of the NBA season. So once the finals is over, this promo is going to be gone. So if you haven't checked out PrizePicks yet, you probably want to get in before the finals is over with, so that way you can get an entry into this $1 million promo. Basically, what it is they give you 5 players. It's usually the top 5 guys, from the game. So Chris Paul, Giannis, Booker, those 5 guys. Middleton, Ayton, whoever, but they give you 5 questions pretty much. It's usually how many points do you think each player scores, and if you go 5 for 5, I know it's going to be tough to do, but if you do go 5 for 5 and you get every pick right, you do win $1 million. But even if you go 1 for 5 or 2 for 5, you still get a prize. They're giving away free money right now, so check out PrizePicks, guys. Link down below in the description, or just use promo code NOAH when you do sign up, so that way you get the deposit bonus, plus you'll get an entry into that $1 million promo. But let's go ahead and talk about this showdown slate, kind of break it all down top to bottom. So we'll start off on the Suns side, talk about the Suns players first, and then we'll kind of switch over to Milwaukee. So looking at Phoenix for today, you got Devin Booker at the top, 10,600 if you want to play him in the flex. Obviously, a captain, you just multiply that by 1.5x. He's 15.9K in the captain. I've kind of been, between Devin Booker and Chris Paul, I like to just play whichever one's lower owned. Normally whichever one has the better game is automatically going to be more popular than next slate. We kind of seen that be the case with Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. I think with Devin Booker having the better game last slate, maybe he comes in a little bit more popular than Chris Paul. Regardless, I think Booker, is a solid option here. He's going to play massive minutes like he's been doing the entire postseason. Going to play probably 42 to 44 minutes if this game stays close. We know Devin Booker is going to take a ton of shots. He's going to get a ton of usage. He's a little bit more scoring dependent than Chris Paul is, which makes him a little bit more of a riskier option, but I still think Devin Booker is a really good play. Now, obviously, you can't play all these top guys, so choosing between the top guys. Giannis is going to continue to be the number one kind of pay-up option for me. It's been that way pretty much so far in this series. I think it's going to continue today. If I can pay up for anyone, it's going to be Giannis, but Devin Booker definitely in play for me. And then Chris Paul at 9,800, coming in a little bit cheaper than Devin Booker. I do have a good amount of interest in Chris Paul as well. Now, he doesn't play as many minutes as Booker does, but he's still a very high upside option. So far in the series through 2 games, we've gotten 53 and 40 DK points from Chris Paul. He can contribute more with the peripherals. Like, he can get assists. He's got double-double upside when it comes to assists. He can actually get rebounds as well. Between Chris Paul or Devin Booker, last slate I preferred Chris Paul, and obviously Devin Booker had the better game. In game 1, I preferred Devin Booker, and then Chris Paul had the better game. So when it comes to these two guys, I haven't really been able to get them right so far. I think between the two, I'm giving the edge to Chris Paul, just given he's a little bit cheaper. I think they have, they project very similarly. Between the two, I think Booker might be a little bit more popular just because he's been, he had the better game last game, and we see recency bias be very high, on these playoff slates, especially these showdown slates where you're playing the same team over and over. People are just going to look at what a guy did the game before, and automatically they're just going to be popular if they do well the game before. So I think Booker might be a little bit more popular than Chris Paul. Regardless, both guys are in play, but if I had to choose one, I think I would give a slight edge to CP3. Now, DeAndre Ayton at 9K, I have some interest in as well. I mean, Ayton's been super consistent, especially in the series through 2 games, 39 and 42 minutes, 41 and 49 Draftkings points. Just continues to do what he does. I mean, he's going to go out there and get you a double-double most nights. He's a really good rebounder. He can obviously get a ton of points around the basket. He just lives in the paint, and I don't think the Bucks really have an answer for DeAndre. And they can play Giannis at center, they can play Brook Lopez minutes, but I don't know if really any of these guys can slow down Ayton, especially with how good he is around the glass, just with how good he is getting putbacks, attacking the boards. He's probably going to get a double-double once again tonight. Last game he did kind of get a little bit lucky with 2 blocks, 3 steals, 4 assists. I mean, that's a little bit of an outlier from Ayton. Normally he's not a guy that gets 4 assists, but we know he's going to get that double-double. We know he can block shots. Between Booker, CP3, Ayton, I would prefer the guards, I think, over Ayton, just because I think the guards give you a little bit more upside. But Ayton is definitely in play for me at 9K. I do want to talk about some of these guys on PrizePicks. So currently, Chris Paul is projected for 43 fantasy points. Devin Booker is projected for 43 as well. And then Ayton is projected for 40.5. CP3 and Ayton, I kind of like their overs. I mean, CP3, he's gone over this projection in 2 of his last 3 games. Chris Paul, I would say his floor is a little bit lower maybe, but we know the ceiling is there. We know he's a guy that can go out there and just take over a game, especially I think it was the final game of the Clippers series. I mean, he was just so good late in that game in the 4th quarter, just was taking a ton of shots, was making every shot he took. I kind of like the over 43 fantasy points on Chris Paul. That's a pick I do like on PrizePicks for today. And even the over on DeAndre Ayton at 40.5, he's gone over this projection in 4 of his last 5 games. He's going to play 40 to 42 minutes. He's a fantasy point per minute player. As long as he averages a fantasy point per minute in the 40 minutes he plays, then he's probably going to go over this projection once again. So I think over on Chris Paul fantasy points, over on DeAndre Ayton fantasy points. Those are 2 picks I do like from Phoenix for today, and we'll discuss a one more that I like in a second. But really all these top 3 guys, Booker, CP3, Ayton, all firmly in play for me. Now, Mikal Bridges at 7,200, his price has gone up a little bit. He did have a great game last game, 40 DK points in 38 minutes. We really haven't seen a good game from Bridges in a while. He just hasn't shown much upside at all this playoffs. I mean, his best, out of his last 10, not counting the last game, his best game was, I think, game 4 against the Clippers. Played 39 minutes, had 30 DK points. Normally Bridges is not a guy you ever really feel like you have to roster. I know he had a good game last game, but, feels like a little bit like you're kind of chasing there. Bridges is just not someone I rarely roster, especially on these showdown slates. With his price coming up, with maybe increased ownership because of his good game last game, I think I'm fine kind of avoiding Mikal Bridges. I would definitely just rather play Jay Crowder. I think Bridges and Crowder, for me, they project so similarly on a nightly basis. They do the same thing. They shoot threes, they get rebounds. Between the two, I prefer Crowder. He's cheaper. He's going to play the same amount of minutes that Bridges will. I think with no Dario Saric, that actually does help Jay Crowder. He did see his minutes go up a little bit last game. With Saric out, he played 37 minutes, had 33 DK points. He did play some small ball 5. Whenever Ayton was off the floor, they did pretty much go small and play Jay Crowder at center. So if they're going to do that, if they're going to give Jay Crowder like backup center minutes, I mean, I don't know if that really helps his rebounding numbers, but he did get 10 rebounds last game, and he did have a double-double last game. Regardless, I think it's going to help his minutes. You know, he did play 37 minutes, which is the most he's played in, like, I think out of his last 8 games, I believe. That's 37 minutes is the most minutes that Jay Crowder has played. So if we're going to get anywhere near 37 minutes from Jay Crowder, at $6K, I think he's a fine mid-range option. And for the savings, I do prefer him over Mikal Bridges. Now, Jay Crowder, I do want to hit on him over on PrizePicks. His projection right now on PrizePicks is currently 21.5. I like the over there as well. You know, like I said, I think Jay Crowder will see a few more minutes with Dario Saric out. You know, I thought maybe they would give Frank Kaminsky some center run last game, but he barely played. I think Kaminsky played literally like 30 seconds. They seem pretty content on just using Jay Crowder as like their backup center. And if we're going to get 36, 37 minutes from Jay Crowder, I mean, you never know what you're going to get from this guy, but the minutes should be there. He can easily go over 21.5 fantasy points. He's gone over that in 2 of his last 3 games. I do like the over on Jay Crowder fantasy points as well as, you know, another pick I like from Phoenix for today. But then the rest of these Suns guys, you got Cameron Payne at 4,800. Look, Cameron Payne's going to play 10 to 15 minutes off the bench. Some nights he'll, you know, have a good shooting game, or some nights he'll, you know, luck into 6 or 7 assists. He might get you 15, 20 DK points, but at 4,800, just feels a little bit too pricey for me. Like, I haven't been on Cameron Payne much at all in the postseason. Really, the only time I played him was when Chris Paul was out. Other than that, I've pretty much been off of Payne, so don't really have much interest in him. Cam Johnson was really expensive last slate. He was $6K. His price has come down to $4,600, so he's fine, but another guy that I don't really feel great about. Like, I think I prefer the value on Milwaukee with guys like PJ Tucker, Pat Connaughton. Like, PJ Tucker and Connaughton have kind of been the value guys I've been going to on these showdown slates, and I think those are the 2 guys I like once again for value. I do prefer them over Cam Johnson, over Cameron Payne. I mean, Cam Johnson, we know what he's going to do. He's probably going to play around 20 minutes off the bench, maybe with Dario Saric out and with Torrey Craig banged up. Maybe Cameron Johnson plays a few more minutes, but from my guess, or my best guess, we get like 20 to 22 minutes from Cameron Johnson. Not a very high upside option, but 4,600, he is viable on a showdown slate. And then after that, like, it gets pretty dicey. So Frank Kaminsky, you know, I thought would get some minutes last game with Dario Saric out, but he only played like 30 seconds. It's tough to really go to Kaminsky just given what we saw last game. There's no guarantee that he even gets minutes today, so I'm kind of off of Kaminsky. The big kind of question mark, though, is Torrey Craig. So Torrey Craig did get banged up last game. He played 8 minutes, and then he got injured. Right now, he is uncertain to play for Sunday's game. And normally, you wouldn't think this really matters. Like, Torrey Craig, whether he's in or out, you wouldn't think that really matters. But on a single-game showdown slate, it actually does kind of matter a good amount. So if Torrey Craig does not play, I don't really know what they're going to do with the minutes. My best guess is that maybe Abdel Nader gets into the rotation. You know, they could just run a 7-man rotation, play their 5 starters, and then play Cameron Johnson and Cameron Payne off the bench, and those really be the only guys that get minutes. But I think we might see Abdel Nader get some time on the floor. Abdel Nader, you know, he's not a very productive player. He's not a guy that you're really excited to roster, but this is kind of the same thing. You know, when I talked about Kaminsky last slate, I know it didn't work out, but he's $1,000. I mean, for Abdel Nader to potentially make the optimal lineup, for him to be in the winning lineup, if he plays like 6 or 8 minutes and scores 8 DraftKings points, there's a definite possibility that he could be in the winning lineup, because we've kind of seen the studs, you know, really just doing everything so far in the postseason, especially like in this series. You're seeing big games from Giannis, big games from Booker, CP3. You're going to have those guys in your lineup pretty much most nights. So if the studs do well and you need a value guy, I could see Nader being that value guy. Now, if Torrey Craig plays, I don't think I'd go to Nader. I definitely would not go to Nader. But if Torrey Craig is out, I think Nader does become viable. Now, if Torrey Craig himself plays, he's only $1,000. He could actually be viable. Now, Torrey Craig's not a productive player either, but Torrey Craig has consistently been a part of the rotation. So I would assume that if he does play, he's going to get his normal 10 to 15 minutes. And at $1,000, I mean, if Torrey Craig scores 8 DraftKings points in 10 minutes, he could definitely be in the winning lineup as well. So wait and see here, but if Torrey Craig plays, I actually do like him as a punt value. If he's out, I think there's a chance that Abdel Nader would get into the rotation, and then Abdel Nader would become a viable punt option as well. But I think that does it for the Suns. I think we've talked about really every playable option on Phoenix, so we'll go ahead and move on to the Milwaukee side and hit on the Bucks here. So at the top, you got Giannis, most expensive option from Milwaukee, most expensive option overall on the slate, and for good reason. I mean, Giannis so far in this series, even in Game 1 when he was, you know, maybe a little bit limited. He played 35 minutes, had 53 DK points. Last game, he was amazing, played 40 minutes, had 71 Draftkings points. He went absolutely nuclear in the third quarter. I can't remember how many points he scored in the third quarter, but they couldn't stop him at all. Kind of sucks. Giannis played so well last game, and the Bucks still lost because they really couldn't get much from Drew, couldn't get much from Middleton. Giannis, in my opinion, once again, is the top pay-up option. He's going to continue to be the guy that I try and jam in at the top. It feels like, at this point, you're probably going to have Giannis. Most nights, probably you're going to have Giannis to cash. I would say, it would be very unlikely if Giannis is not in the winning lineup most nights on this slate. I think the only way he doesn't crack the optimal lineup is if he just re-injures himself, or it's just a massive blowout or something. As long as Giannis scores 50 to 55 DK points, which almost feels like his floor at this point, he's probably going to be in the optimal lineup, because a floor game from Giannis could still be the highest scoring player on the slate, even if he has a floor game. So I like Giannis a lot. He's the top pay-up option for me once again. If I'm paying up at captain, he's the guy that I would definitely be playing at the top in the captain spot. Now, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, I just can't seem to get these guys right. Whenever Giannis is healthy, you just never know what you're getting from Middleton. You never know what you're getting from Drew. Obviously, these guys are, secondary options whenever Giannis is healthy. Last game, Drew had the better game. The game before that, Middleton had the better game. I like to, it's kind of the same thing with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. I just like to play whichever one's lower owned. I think with Drew having the better game last game, maybe he's a little bit more popular today, especially because he's a little bit cheaper as well. So for that reason, I maybe would just prefer Middleton, but Drew and Middleton, I don't think either one are going to be priorities for me. If I'm playing one lineup today, I don't know if I would get to Drew or Middleton. I think if I'm paying up for anyone from Milwaukee, it's going to be Giannis. But obviously those two guys are in play. I would definitely put Chris Paul and Devin Booker, though, ahead of Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. That's kind of how I've been approaching it so far in this series, and I think that's how it's going to continue to be for me. Just whenever Giannis is healthy, God, you just never know what you're getting from Drew or Middleton. Some nights they'll have big games, some nights they'll have floor games. It's so tough to predict. But then you look at the rest of these Milwaukee guys. Brook Lopez, 6,600. He was pretty good last game. He played more minutes than I thought he would. He played 28 minutes after only playing 23 minutes the game before that. Had 27 DK points in that time. At 6,600, the price tag did come down a little bit. I don't mind Brook Lopez, but still he's not someone I feel great about just because I don't think his minutes are very secure. I think some nights they might just choose to go small, play Giannis at center like they've kind of been doing. It seems like, Giannis at center is going to be the closing lineup pretty much most nights. It was the closing lineup last game. Brook Lopez, I don't think was in the closing lineup if I remember correctly. So my best guess, we get 25, 26 minutes from Brook Lopez. He could maybe play a few more. He could possibly play a few less. He's a fine option in the mid-range, but I don't feel great about Brook Lopez. I think I probably would rather go to a guy like Jay Crowder for a little bit cheaper. But Lopez is definitely viable. Now, Bobby Portis, 5,200, just feels a little bit too expensive. With Giannis back, we just don't really know how many minutes Bobby Portis is going to play. Game 1, when Giannis was healthy, he played 14 minutes, and then last game he only played 5 minutes. He could play 10 minutes, he could play 15, he could play 5 again. We just don't really know. At 5,200, Bobby Portis, in my opinion, is just too expensive right now. With how much uncertainty there is in his minutes, I think it would be fine to take a shot on him if he was 2K or 3K. But at 5,200, you're going to need him to be really productive when he's out there, or you're going to need him to play more minutes than we really expect. So I don't think I'm going to go to Bobby Portis. Just the minutes are just not secure right now. I would much rather go to guys like PJ Tucker, Pat Connaughton, who have been consistently getting minutes in this series. Games 1 and 2 from PJ Tucker, played 33 minutes in Game 1, played 35 minutes in Game 2. Now, obviously, PJ Tucker, you never know what you're going to get from this guy, but the minutes are going to continue to be there. I think he plays 33 to 35 minutes most nights in the series. I've been taking his over on PrizePicks lately. Lastly, very frustrating. I needed one fantasy point from PJ Tucker to go over his projection, and he couldn't get a fantasy point at all the entire fourth quarter. Just need him to get one fantasy point in the fourth quarter, and he couldn't do that. But I like the over once again on PJ Tucker's fantasy points. It's 14.5. With him playing 33, 35 minutes a night, he's gone over this projection in 4 of his last 5 games. He's gone over this, or 3 of his last 5 games. He's gone over this projection. Look, you never know what you're getting from PJ Tucker, but 35 minutes from PJ Tucker, he can definitely go over 14.5 fantasy points. So I do like the over on that one once again. It came up short last slate, but I think I'm going to go right back to the over on 14.5 fantasy points for PJ Tucker, just because the minutes have been so secure. as long as he can knock down a couple threes, grab a few rebounds, maybe get a steal, that's really all you need from him at what his projection is. So I like that. I like PJ Tucker for value, and then Pat Connaughton as well as someone I'm looking to for value. Pat Connaughton did have a really good game last game. He did shoot the ball pretty well. I mean, 5 for 10 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3. Did luck into 7 rebounds, which I don't know is something we can really expect, but the minutes have continuously been there for Pat Connaughton. He's consistently playing 25, 30 minutes off the bench, got up to 34 minutes last game. If they continue to play Giannis at center and take minutes away from Brook Lopez, I think a lot of the minutes you would see go to Brook Lopez have been going to Pat Connaughton lately off the bench. If we're going to get 30 minutes from Pat Connaughton at 3,800, he's another guy that I like a lot for value. It's really hard to find guys this cheap, that are going to play the minutes that Connaughton will, play the minutes that Tucker will. So Tucker and Connaughton continue to be, kind of two of my favorite value plays on this showdown slate. And then the rest of these Bucks guys, really Bryn Forbes and Jeff Teague, that's about it. I mean, Forbes, I've kind of been off of in the postseason. I really haven't played him much at all in these showdown slates. He's not getting enough minutes. He's not doing really anything when he's on the floor anyway. Last game he played 6 minutes. He took 1 3-point attempt, or he took 3 threes. He made 1 of them. Maybe if Bryn Forbes comes out and makes 3 for 3, or he goes like 3 for 3 or 4 for 4 from downtown, then yeah, Bryn Forbes could luck his way into 12 or 13 DraftKings points. But if you do roster Bryn Forbes, you pretty much gotta hope that he just makes every 3-pointer that he takes, because he's not really going to do anything else. He's not going to get rebounds. He's not going to get assists. He's going to take a couple threes when he's out there, and you got to just hope that he makes all of them. So I don't feel great about Bryn Forbes, but there's at least a possibility that he gets hot and makes a couple threes and somehow makes the winning lineup. But I'd rather go to Connaughton. I'd rather go to Tucker if I can get to them. Jeff Teague, kind of the same thing. I mean, he played 12 minutes last game. He's actually played more than I thought he would so far in the series, 10 and 12 minutes. If we're going to get like 10 to 12 minutes from Jeff Teague, I think at $1,800, I mean, he's definitely a fine punt option. I don't think it's a guarantee that Jeff Teague plays 10 to 12 minutes again, but he's been consistently getting that so far. So if you want to go to Jeff Teague, I'm fine with him too. But really, I think for value, I'm looking to PJ Tucker. I'm looking to Pat Connaughton. On the Phoenix side, I think Torrey Craig, if he plays, I do like it 1K as well as a cheaper option. But that pretty much does it for the showdown slate, guys. I think we talked about really every playable option, all the guys I've interested in. We hit on some picks I do like over on PrizePicks as well. Lastly, guys, if you guys do want to check out PrizePicks, be sure to use promo code NOAH when you do sign up. Link down below in the description. Or again, just use that promo code when you sign up. You'll get a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. Plus, you'll get an entry into their $1 million promo. If you do look on the screen right now, PrizePicks giving away $1 million for new users who make their first deposit. You'll get an entry into this $1 million promo. They'll send it to your email. You have to answer 5 questions. If you go 5 for 5, you get every question right, you win $1 million. But even if you go 1 for 5 or 2 for 5, you still get a prize. I think $50 if you go 1 for 5. I think it's $100 if you go 2 for 5, and then it just keeps going up depending on how many questions you get right. But yeah, check out PrizePicks, guys, if you would like. We've already kind of discussed some picks I like for PrizePicks for today. If you do want to tell me, if you want to use these picks for yourself, you can do that. If you want to make some of your own picks, you can do that as well. Be sure to use promo code NOAH when you do sign up, so that way you'll get a deposit bonus and you'll get an entry into that $1 million promo. But that does it for today's slate, guys. I hope you did enjoy the video. Appreciate you watching. Hit that like button before you do get out of here. Hit that subscribe button as well. Also, click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload, and you also do get notified every time I go live, every time I do live stream. But good luck tonight, guys. Enjoy the game. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next.